Put on my late night radio voice.
There we go. Welcome to the 21st gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 15th of August. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and make sure your eyelets and grommets are properly aligned when you're gathered at the meeting table. We're continuing our month-long convention theme here by talking about cosplay at conventions. And our guest and the first voice that you heard is that of Amy Frost. And she's the co-host of The Overcast, which is a podcast about the relatively soon-to-be-released it's a PC game called Overwatch. They're not releasing it to console at all?
They haven't mentioned it yet. We'll see.
All right. I'm going to continue listening to your show so I know what's happening there. So she's also been a guest on one of the Galactic Netcast's other shows, the Sci-Fi Geeks Club, and she's also the former host of the Galactic Netbite segment called The S Word. She is a talented artist, crafter, and seamstress who also is a cosplayer. And we're going to be talking about dressing as your character or kind of bringing your character to life. What's the process? Obviously, you don't instantly know how to use a sewing machine, so what are the best resources to do that? And it doesn't stop there. It's also crafting. I mean, if you were checking out the video version of this, you can see that Amy is wearing a set of her steampunk goggles that she has built. So it's also prop building. So it's not just the fabrics. It's actually working with other materials as well to build the accessories for your characters too. So our second in command here is, see, I switched everything around on the show, and now my brain switched gears, and everything just went straight to hell. Hey, the second in command here is Glenn Bittner, and he is a movie reviewer on the YouTube show The B Movie Bunker, and creator of the RPG Mist Runner. How are you this evening?
I am well, Bradford, and I am also bringing my radio voice.
Oh, good. I'm the only person who has a really horribly crappy voice, and you all can sound great. Excellent. And there's no shame. I'll fix my voice in post. We'll all have radio voices together.
Perfect.
And we're going to do, like we always do, roundtable game review and our gaming news. And we're going to talk with our guest, Amy Frost. But first, we're going to do the review of a game that from Queen Games, and it's called what?
It is called Via Appia.
It doesn't have anything to do with sleep disorder. Now that would be Via Appia. Okay, different game. All right, what you got?
So Via Appia, brought to us by Michael Feldcotter. I don't know, there's the umlaut thing over the O. So, as you said, from Queen Games, 2013, 2 to 4 players, about 45 minutes to play. So the Via Appia was the most famous road of the Roman Empire. And you are currently, it's under construction, and you are one of the people building it. So basically, you are trying to be part of this historic event to finish the road to connect Rome to Brindisi. This game, it has an interesting element because one is you're moving along this path as you're building it, placing stones to complete the road. However, there's also a bit of a physical dexterity aspect to it because you're going to start off by collecting income each turn. There's going to be different income cards. And when you take them, you can either earn sesterci, which is basically the coins, or you can take stones from the income card. And what the stones do is they go into your little cart. You have this little cart where you can hold stones. You can only hold so many, so you can't just hoard stones. But then you get to, after that's done, you take up to two of your stones, and you add them to the quarry. And the quarry is this it's this little elevated cardboard contraption that if you've ever been at like a restaurant or a bar where they have that coin pusher game, you drop your coin in, it's got the little bar that pushes out to try to push money off the edge for you. It's basically like that. Because you add some of your stones to the quarry and you push the pusher forward, trying to push stones off the edge. So the stones that your income aren't the ones you're laying. You're going to be laying ones you push out of the quarry. And you can take those stones, trade them in for tiles that you then play on the board as part of the road. So that it adds that little bit of physical dexterity to it. That's not just it's not just a standard move and collect your stuff and play stuff. You sometimes you don't get the stones you want. Sometimes you get more stones than you can use. But I like that little aspect of it because it's not super complex. Where it's like not. I mean, anyone can figure out how you're pushing. If you don't know how to push, then any board game is going to be beyond you anyways. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, it is. If pushing is out of your scope of abilities, and that's I'm talking about someone who is completely physically able. I don't mean to dismiss anyone who would have to have someone push for them because of a physical disability. If you're just lazy, sorry, I don't have any sympathy for you because I'm lazy.
Well,
so,
yeah.
But then after you place your little tiles on the road, you then move your little pawn along the road because you're moving as you build it. It's a really interesting little building game. It plays pretty quick because as we've talked, you and I, our time on this earth is we're running out, so we need quicker play games.
I remember when I had time to play an 8 or 9 hour game. I could be dead any minute. I need an hour-long game.
Arkham Horror, I don't have enough life left for that game.
I'll be probably playing Eldritch Horror when I'm done with this podcast.
Nice.
So, but you keep playing until either one of two things happens. One is one of the players, one of the players reaches Brindisi, reaches the end, or if the road is completely built. And then you have your scoring. You finish that round, and then you score. And scoring is pretty simple. You get, if you have the most sesterci, the most coins, you get victory points, 2 of them. You get points if you had the longest single segment of road built. You get victory points. The second most, you get less victory points. If you have the most at the end, you win. So
Huzzah!
it's like I said, it's a nifty little game because it adds that other element of the whole pushing the stones. It's got great components. I mean, you get this big old bag here of stones, which I should hold up. This is in front of the camera. This is in my lap. Where who knows what's going on there.
I was doing a screen share. You want to hold that up again?
So that's all the different stones. So you have different, as you can see, you have different sizes and shapes. So some big, some small, and so obviously you want to try to get those big ones because it lets you push lots of stuff off. So yeah, and it's nice, tons of little tiles because you have to fill up the whole road. You get your own little. See, I haven't even punched my version out yet. I was using one at the store, but you even get your own little carts. That actually, this is actually part of the quarry, but you get your carts as well. So it's a lot of great, nice thick cardboard stock. So great quality components. I like Queen games a lot. They generally make stuff that I like, and this is one I like. I wasn't. It is one where you see the name and you're like, Via Appia. Okay, and then you read the scriptures like, we're building a road. Okay. But then you play it and you're like, okay, it's actually kind of fun. It plays quick enough where you don't get tired of the whole push and place mechanism going on. If this was like a 3-hour game, I'd be like, push and knocking everything off and be like, I'm done with this crap. But
now, to be fair, we have talked about a game where you had a wombat and you made poop cubes. So, making a road?
Okay, but as I said, I see this and go, making a road doesn't wow me. You say poop cubes, and I'm like, I'm in.
Well,
That's all I need. I mean, as I told someone at work today, when I helped them find a great gift for an 8-year-old boy, I said, if you want a gift for the 8-year-old boy, just find the tallest person who is still an 8-year-old boy, and they will find you the perfect thing. So poop, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, you got me there. And Amy's like, oh, you talked about a game about poop cubes. Huh, well, that's fascinating. Why
I spend enough
here?
time at game stores. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, actually, I was just at Chimera Games in Appleton, and that's a...
My nemesis.
Well, it's
not at all. I like Bob. Bob's a good guy.
yeah, Bob wasn't there, but Beth and I can't remember the other one. and they're like every time I've gone, I don't think I've seen Bob. I've seen the two ladies.
Bob's probably at a convention because that's what Bob does.
It's nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Bob is kind of like the liquidator for ACD distribution, which is why if you see him at a con, like a Gen Con or any other con, he's got just tons of games like the buy one, get two free and that type of stuff is because he's a liquidator in addition to running his store. So,
gotcha. No, just for a point of reference, Chimera Games is a comic shop and game shop, but they also carry like Ravenloft puzzles, and they carry
Ravensburger.
The Ravensburger, sorry.
Ravenloft puzzles sound awesome, but I don't think they exist yet.
See, I've got gaming on the brain, obviously, and jumped to that was
crossing the streams, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
6,000-piece Strahd is pretty awesome, man.
You can get past this door, but you got to do this 4,000-piece puzzle first. Our barbarian is no good here.
And they've got Warhammer, and they've got Magic, and then they've got a huge area for playing games in the back. And by playing games, that could be Magic, that could be miniature war game, it could be it's just a ridiculously huge and an amazing selection. Although when I did ask for if they had Fear Itself and Trail of Cthulhu, because after our talk with Kenneth Haidt, I realized I needed more Pelgrane games in my life, and they have to order it. So I may be making a return trip to Appleton soon. So there you go, and that's enough advertising for Chimera Games. It's a great shop, and if you're in Wisconsin, you should really check it out. Nice group of people, and very, you ask them, hey, do you have this? They don't just sit on their butts and go, no, I don't think so. They actually scour the intertubes and check out their supplier to see if they can actually get it and help you out. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a great local game store. So 2 to 4 players. 45 minutes, so that's kind of still within our realm of under 3 hours for a game. And looking at, I need to jump back to my screen here, looking at the cost, it looks like it retails for around, and I'm jumping around the screen here, and there we go. Looks like it's around 40? 35, 40?
Yeah.
Does
that sound right? Glenn? I cannot hear you.
If you get it on discount, it's about 40. It generally retails at about 55.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, I'm still obviously within our usual price limit of what we say you're going to spend on a game with, especially as many pieces as that game has. I mean, you're building a road with actual representations of stone, so there's a lot going on there. So that's definitely a solid price for a good quality game too. Now, Queen Games, what other games have they done that people should check out as well?
Queen Games, they really haven't made anything else.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, that's not true at all.
Damn it, Glenn.
I'm completely lying to you. Queen Games has made a lot of stuff, and actually they were recently purchased by Asmodee.
Okay.
But Queen Games, when they were still Queen Games, they've made Kingdom Builder, Alhambra.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, my brain is already blanking. Amerigo is them. Banana Party, which is a great, fun kids game. Let me hear that. I have the internet. I can look stuff up.
Yay, internet!
I can't believe I'm forgetting all of these. Generally they are a Euro game company for the most part. I mean, they make it's not lots of dice rolling and stuff like that. Dragon Valley, Edo, Escape is probably one of their best known current ones, which is kind of a timed, cooperative timed, and Escape Zombie City. So, I mean, they make a lot of cool stuff. Fresco is one of their better known ones, but they've made a lot of stuff.
Well, good. So they're gonna
on the Geek. There's 20 pages of games they've made.
Was that all?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all they've done. Metro. I can't believe I forgot Metro. I loved the game Metro.
Okay, so yeah.
Another one where you're like, hey, we're building the subways of England. Awesome. But it's actually a really fun game.
See, and if we can recommend a game about, wombats and poop cubes, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is a decent game and Glenn doesn't review games that suck. That's one of his rules for this particular portion of the adventure party.
Yeah, it's easy to slam on something, and I've done that in the past, and I'm like, life is too short to shit on someone else.
And that's very true. That's very true.
Sorry, to poop on someone else. To keep it a little bit more family friendly. Go back to talking about poop.
Fuck that. All right. So, anyways, So, Via Appia. Definitely
Yes.
should check that out. All right. We are going to move on to the news, and we talked about Savage Worlds. Episode 10, I believe, when we talked about the Sixth Gun being released in the Savage Worlds game system. Family Affiar, a new Savage Worlds adventure from Fabled Environments. Organized crime has ways to make sure that their illegal activities are covered up, from simply denying that they know what happened to someone that's gone missing, to claiming it fell off a truck when they found it to have goods that they didn't pay for. But making sure the money looks clean is possibly the most important. We know that it was for tax evasion. God, I can't read to save my life today. We know that it was tax evasion that eventually brought down Al Capone. Well, the Scalducci family has a master bookkeeper known only as Mr. Lewis. In Family Affiar, a new Fabled Environments blueprint for imagination book for Savage Worlds, the Scalducci family has kept Mr. Lewis under lock and key, guarded by armed men at all times. Nobody knows who he is or what he looks like, but all that will change. You might think that a CPA is a boring job, but when you've got all with a supernatural twist on it, maybe it's not so dull after all. So, yeah. This is a story from Tabletop Gaming News, and it is, let's see, Mr. Lewis has never left his private apartment at the Scalducci estate in the 9 years that he took the job. It's written by Matthew Cutter, who has done Deadlands Reloaded, Deadlands Noir, Space 1899, Savage Worlds, which I have played, and it's a fantastic system. The adventure with a supernatural twist is sure to be a hit, whether you run this with at a gaming convention or as a one-shot at your local gaming store. This module stands alone or could simply be one of many adventures your players undertake as part of a larger campaign. The module uses the Concentrics and Average Nightclub floor plan from Fabled Environments. Whew. So, have you heard of Fabled Environments, either of you?
I have not, but now I'm intrigued.
And it looks like they, and I'm flipping around on their page on drivethrurpg.com, and they actually do a bit of, they make floor plans for games and modules as well.
That saves you a lot of graph paper.
Oh Lord, and dry erase marker, and then accidentally using permanent marker because nobody's ever done that before and totally wrecked a ChessX, huge map that cost $40. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so there you go. The one thing, and we talked about the Marvel game from the 80s, the role-playing game from the 80s. The only thing I kept from that box set were the maps. Everything else I threw out because I thought the game was terrible, but the maps were amazing, and they all looked like, they looked like blueprints. It was just a beautiful setup, and definitely a worthwhile piece to keep for other games that you're going to have in this particular case, a more contemporary format or content or storyline. So
looks like a lot of their stuff is, pay what you want too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, and looking at some of the hottest titles from Fabled Environments here on Drive-Thru RPG, Throwdown at the North Pole for Savage Worlds, $3.
Mm-hmm.
Victorian-style mansion, $3.76. That's an amazing price. And these are PDFs, so I mean you could easily take it to an Instaprints or whatever print sort of place that you've got, and you could print out a map that's actually sized to work with 28mm figures.
I actually work for a printer as my day job, and people are always surprised when I ask them they come in with their character sheets or their maps to print, and I'm always like, oh, so what are you rolling? And they're always completely floored when I ask them this question. They're like, not a bard, if that's what you're asking. No, that's what I'm asking. I
know. Nice.
Yeah,
And I think a while ago I bought Hunter's Hunted 2, the updated version from Onyx Path, and I took it to an Instaprints, and I'm like, hey, this is a totally legal PDF that I've purchased. Could you please print this into a spiral bound book for me? And yeah, it worked out, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have bought the book and had it shipped, because it would have cost about the same after buying the PDF and then having it printed. But at least I've got a copy.
It's just not the same on a tablet. It's
not.
Not the same at all. I mean, it's so much easier, but horrible.
Yeah, it's the convenient, and maybe it's just I wanted to chalk it up to being the generation that I am, that we didn't grow up with. God, I sound like my grandfather. But we didn't grow up with an iPad. I can only imagine what my son, picking up a book versus his iPad, what he would prefer to read.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to use I can read a book on my Kindle or iPad or whatever, and I'm fine with that. But it's when I need to flip back and forth between pages and stuff like that, that just isn't convenient for me mentally. It just, then I got to remember, okay, well, and the page numbers don't always, it's just,
I need my
weird.
18 Post-it note tabs in the top of it, and then other people take them and the tabs fall out, then I get angry. I don't let people borrow my books.
I've got book plates that I, like my game books, I've got plates in the front, so I go, yes, if it's got the ancient world map on the front, that is mine. Give it back. Of course, I sound like a unsharing 8-year-old, but it's like at the end of the game, you want to get your books back. So I don't think that's unreasonable, but it's, and especially with a core rule book for Pathfinder, that's like $50. Yeah, it's one of those things, and we really took a turn there. But anyways, hey. Fabled Environments, they have a lot of stuff. Check them out on a Drive-Thru RPG. And if you're into Savage Worlds, they've got this brand new adventure, which sounds really cool. And it's not necessarily just like a whodunit or something that is just an organized crime or maybe a potential CSI thing. There's a supernatural element to it, so there's a whole nother layer to it as well. So it sounds like a really, really cool concept.
And they have an Arctic research station, so you can be Jack McCready and go battle the thing.
Nice. See, that's God, and that's why I love gaming so much. Is you can just go, we're gonna play the thing, and now we're gonna play, Victorian steampunk, and we're gonna, the limit is your imagination. I mean, how
Victorian
cool is that?
steampunk the thing.
Oh. Let's roll it up right now. Let's go. Here we go.
Yep.
Good night, folks.
Roll for initiative.
This is going to be the shortest show that we've ever done, or we're just going to jump right to role play right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, and the cost for this, $1.50 on DriveThruRPG for you to get the watermarked PDF that you can print out or have on your iPad or whatever your particular e-device, e-reader of choice is. And got $1.50 for that. That's a frickin' bargain. A frickin' bargain.
Can you afford not to get it, really?
I think that's the question we really need to ask ourselves, Amy.
So. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you are correct. All right. Next up, we're going to have Ryan Murphy, who is a regular contributor to Galactic Netcasts, and he does the Galactic Gaming News. And he covers more of the digital beat of gaming for us, and he has yet another update. So please, take it away, Ryan. All right. Thanks for that report, Ryan. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to talk about a Kickstarter project, and we're going to do our recap from last week. And last week's was Random Encounters, the RPG card game. And I think when we talked about it, it was a bit like Munchkin in a certain aspect.
Yeah, a little bit.
And oh, yes, there we go. 45 hours to go for this. So just under 2 days. And their pledged goal that they needed to reach was $20,635. Kind of a random dollar amount, but I'm sure it works for what they're calculating. And they've raised $23,279, so it's a go. It is going to, well, at least it's been backed. I guess we need to probably make sure that we clarify that it's been backed.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will be coming out soon. The delivery date that they're estimating will be March of 2016, so spring of next year. And looking at their stretch goals, they have unlocked custom dice, so they are going to upgrade the plain dice with stickers to fully custom-made dice with an engraved star icon, which is cool. And the next one that they unlocked was a bonus character. Vote on a bonus character. Who will you choose to win the adventuring party? So, and it looks like, because I said that they were at 23, with that just under 2 days to go, it's very conceivable that they'll hit their third, which at 25,000 is B-side bosses. On the flip side of the boss cards, there will be a hard mode version with new abilities. So if you want to play a more advanced, a harder game to play, hard mode, harder game, obviously, you'd flip the card and you would follow the rules for that particular version of the boss. So that sounds really, really cool. And I think we mentioned last week we weren't sure where they were going to sit, if they were going to make their goal, because I think they were at 16 when we talked about them last week.
Yeah.
So we're our record holds. We're still backing. We're still talking about games that are reaching their goals. So, we've got all 21 shows now. We've picked those that have been backed. Still. Yay for us.
So if you want a successful Kickstarter, we're your guys. It's all us.
Yeah, it's totally all us. But now we've done the recap, and like we said, if you're watching the YouTube version of this live, or within hours after it's been processed, on YouTube and available as of this point in time. There's 45 hours to go, so get on that if you want this game. And we looked at it, and it looked like it was a lot of fun, and would be a good time for folks. So you can definitely get on that. But Glenn, you brought us a new game that we can talk about, which I have never thought about this as being a board game. I always think of this like Sucker Punch. What a great end to that movie, huh? Yeah. So how can we make lobotomy fun, Glenn? Tell us how.
Lobotomy. All right. So this game, first of all, it comes from Titan Forge, which is actually known for minis, not for board games. But that would explain why the actual minis for this game look amazing. But lobotomy is all about escaping a psychiatric hospital. And I love the description where it is, characters will fight off monsters straight out of the classic horror movies, or maybe disconcerting hospital staff, collect powerful items, or random trash, and recover scraps of memory that unlock new skills and powers, also known as slipping deeper into madness. All that in anticipation of the final battle against the chief hospital administrator, who holds the key to the asylum and your freedom. So this is a 1 to 6 player game, but as they say, more can play, so whatever that means, who knows? We can play 1,000 maybe. It is cooperative, and it has it's got a nice modular board, which the board is different when you play it. It's got over 40 super detailed minis, many of which are inspired by classic horror themes. The actual chief hospital administrator looks amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing.
I want to pause right now.
Yep.
If you are not looking at the YouTube version of this, don't walk, run, because this is absolutely freaking amazing. It is the creepiest damn miniature I think I've ever seen. And like you said, these folks make miniatures. That's been their bread and butter, and now they're making a game, and these figures are creepy. Absolutely creepy. All right, continue.
Where was I? I was descending into madness. That's right.
No.
But it just comes with so much cool stuff, and these are the types of games I love. I like cooperative games a lot. I know some people don't. Some people fear the alpha gamer who takes over and tells everyone to do, and some feel that it's not really a game if you're not playing against people. Blah blah blah. Bull pucky. I like games like this, and I love any game where I can add more, because I need the Antichrist miniature and blood drinkers and nurses and damned girls, which look like the girls out of The Ring, and just great looking figures and so many nice components. And are they going to get funded? That's the big question, because they're asking for $40,000, which is a lot of money. And, okay, as we're watching the amount go up, $2,000 in the time I've been talking, they're currently at $178,000. So, yes, this will be funded.
Holy crap!
1,389 backers. It was at $176 when I started talking, and it's already up $2,000. And there's still 15 days to go.
God! At Kickstarter exclusive, they have B.A. Dolly, which is I'm gonna do screen share here real quick. So again, I highly recommend that you check out the YouTube version of this. Mm-hmm. It's the main character from Sucker Punch.
Yeah. Oh, look at some of the other characters. I mean, you have.
Oh God, the names. The
names.
Arnie Connors.
Arnie Connor, Ellen Ridley, Marcus Dieter, Helena Swan. I mean, these are all taken out of things that many people will recognize.
Yes.
Just slight twists on the names. And I mean, the figures look. I mean, Ellen Ridley looks like Sigourney Weaver
from
the Alien movie.
Alien 3.
So
she's shaving bald.
Yeah. So.
God, this is a
clown.
You got
a clown.
I'm going to kind of diverge here a little bit, which we do from time to time. There was a trailer that came out. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's like this guy. They're supposed to have a clown at this party, and the clown cancels, and the dad, I guess, goes down in the basement and finds a clown costume and puts it on, and it turns out that the costume parts are part of an old demonic clown of some sort, and the pieces are fusing to him and turning him into this demonic clown. And that's what when I see this, I don't necessarily think of Pennywise. I'm thinking of this trailer for this newer film that's coming out. He's holding a balloon and just looking evil and creepy, and oh god. And obviously a tip of the hat to Damien from The Omen.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. This looks like a tip of the hat to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Just so many wonderful little tropes that they're just tipping the hat to.
Yep.
So,
and you might say, well, that's great, but I mean, once I play it a bunch of times, aren't I done with it? Well, maybe, but then you can also get the From the Deep expansion, which comes with 30 Deep One minis.
Which are amazing.
It's the Gordon's Fisherman with a squid face.
See, I'm from New England, so this is where this character is from. Like, I've been to this statue,
Yes.
like the real statue of this sailor, so this is just perfect. Like,
and some of the other expansions here, another Kickstarter exclusive is Allison and Cameron the Cat, which is Alice in Wonderland. B.A. Dolly, we've got Nicholas Jackson, who is a tip of the hat to The Shining. He is a character that is holding an axe. We have final boss miniature with new skills and mechanics, Cthulhu.
I know, like you do.
Like you do.
And they've already unlocked some great stuff. They unlocked the Bernard Smith mini hero, witches, slashers, 3 twin miniatures, which is taken right out of Village of the Damned.
Dagon.
A Dagon miniature.
Yeah, I couldn't resist this. I saw this in the show notes, and I said, "Oh boy," because I'm also a miniature painter. So even if the game winds up being terrible somehow, I don't care.
I don't care.
I need these in my life.
All these add-ons.
Yeah.
I mean, just the minis alone. I will buy this for just the minis alone.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is $85 to get on. Oh no, I'm sorry. It is $90 to get on board now.
Which for a game with these types of components, that's right about normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about the joy of buying games, and if those figures that come with the games are within that 28 to 32 millimeter size range, you can reuse them for any RPG game. So you've got a number of cool tropes here that you're hitting. If you're doing an RPG that is Cthulhu based, Call of Cthulhu or Trail of Cthulhu from Pelgrane Games, whatever, you've got a Cthulhu or a Dagon, or you've got so many different wonderful options that you can do with these figures. Not just play this game with it, but you can recycle them and use them for other things, and that's awesome.
Yep. And if they get 1,200 retweets and Facebook shares, you'll unlock Dale Walker. Dayle Walker. It is basically Blade.
Oh God! I didn't see that.
Yep, further down. So yeah, it's just so much about this game screams, I have to own this.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have a choice. No.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and for those who don't know where the characters come from, Helena Swan is taken. She is pulled from a bunch of different stuff. I mean, where they get, they show where the inspiration for the characters come from. Helena is, Vampire Diaries, The Walking Dead, the works of Jane Austen. Marcus Dieter is Breaking Bad, House MD, Catch-22 Human Centipede. Really cool stuff there's so much stuff on the Kickstarter page. It gives you so much detail about the game. It's amazing.
Oh God, the Deep One expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
Now the one warning I will give is if you look at, I think the $90, that does not include shipping.
No.
Oh, okay.
And this game, Titan Forge, is a UK-based company, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Scroll way down. Average shipping price to the US is $29.
So yeah, you're gonna spend a little money for this.
I personally still think this is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I want to make sure people know that, so you don't go, $90 I can do that, and then all of a sudden it's like, and $33 for shipping. Oh, okay, well, it's, but.
So you're looking at.
Why you shop in stores?
Well, there is that.
But
there is that.
They're promising August of next year. So, and I mean, based on the level of backing they got, this has got to hit stores to some degree, I would think. And Titan Forge is an established company already doing minis, so if you don't get it on a Kickstarter, this should be something that should be available next year on some level somewhere.
Yeah. You might have to look long and hard to find it, but it'll be out there. The cover art for the box, I mean, everything about this just looks like a really amazing game. And if you are a fan of horror, the horror genre, be it, like L&D Ripley, obviously, there you got more sci-fi. Especially, if you get the Deep One expansion, you're a huge Cthulhu mythos fan. This is right up your alley. So, yeah, it's a bit of an investment, but if you do role-playing games as well, you've got these amazing miniatures that you can use for. I mean, the sky's the limit. So, definitely something that we thought that you should know about because it's amazing. So. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, Glenn, and lightening our wallets just a little bit more.
Actually, thank you, though.
All right. And now we are at the discussion portion of the program, and we are going to speak with our guest, Amy Frost. Amy has been listening to... We ran into you through JF, or how did we? And by we, I mean Galactic Netcasts.
I think so. I don't know.
It's whatever. I guess it's.
I'm everywhere. I'm on the internet.
You are the internet.
But tell me. I have my own hashtag.
Wow.
I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do I get me a hashtag?
I don't know. It was given to me, so I don't know how it happened, but apparently I'm a denizen of the internet.
Boom. Citizen of the world, denizen of the internet.
Yeah. That way.
But, and Amy did contribute with an S-Words show for a bit, and but we know her also as a cosplayer.
I am.
And she makes some pretty cool stuff. I mean, if you are able to, find her Facebook page on the internet, and if you want to share that, feel free with the listeners, and they can check out some of your other stuff. But the one thing that Glenn and I have LARPed. So we have worn a costume for the sake of a game. But cosplay really kind of goes beyond that, from what I imagine. And because I know very little about cosplay, and I think Glenn is kind of in the same boat, we wanted to talk to somebody who's in the know, who not only manufactures the clothing, but also manufactures the props to go along with said outfits to kind of bring those characters that you have in your head to life. And wanted to know about the process, wanted to know about resources for people who may have had an inkling of, God, I really want to do this thing. I want to be this character, or I've played this character in a game or whatever, and I want to be that character at a convention. What kind of goes into that thought process, the beginning of I want to do this to I'm here at the con, I've got this all together, and it's finished.
Sure.
So we wanted to have you on the show, and first off, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us.
Thank you for hanging out with me.
And secondly, how did you get started in cosplay? I mean, there had to be a point where you're like, God, I really want to dress like a character.
I gotta tell you, this has been me forever. My mom is an amazing seamstress. She's the one who taught me how to sew, and she used to make my sister and I the most incredible Halloween costumes. Halloween growing up for me was an absolutely huge affair. Like, all the kids in the neighborhood would gather on our front lawn, and this was back in the day when, like, there were no trick-or-treating hours. Like, we went out when the sun went down, and you went home when all the lights were out. Like, I was lucky to have grown up in what I think is the golden age of Halloween.
Oh,
like,
Lord, yes.
You know, like, it's not the same anymore.
And just, yeah.
Like, it was when all the lights were out, you went home. You know, I remember there were years when it was raining, and, like, we wanted to go home before my parents were ready. Like, that was, we're like, we're done. They're like, no, there's lights on, let's keep going. Whereas now, like, I don't have kids, but all my friends do, so I go out trick-or-treating with them. Mostly for the cooler in the wagon. But, you know, now it's like there's set hours, you know, and sometimes it's not even on Halloween. It's like on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
You're like, it's not the same anymore. So I grew up in the heyday when my mom, most notably, it took 2 years for her to finish this incredible Rainbow Bright costume for me. Because I just dated myself entirely right there. But that was like my huge one. So costumes have always been big for me. And then I got older, and my opportunities for dress up were far fewer. Until I started going to the local Renaissance fair. That was kind of when it started up again.
Yep.
Ironically, I wear almost nothing that I've made to the Ren fair. It's kind of funny. I have to say it's store-bought is a bit of a stretch. It's an absolutely stunning costume that I bought. But that's sort of when I started my dress up again, and it was sort of building this character from scratch. And it's sort of my tradition to add a piece every year. So I've added, you know, a lot of times I like to support the local artisans that are at the fair, because that's a big part too. Like, anything I can't make, I prefer to get from someone who does, you know, who does make this for a living. So for that's sort of a character that evolves. I bought a pair of horns because I fell in love with the idea of tieflings.
Okay,
And so that sort of caught my imagination, and so I started, you know, building a character around that. And so that was sort of my first foray back into dressing up.
Okay.
Yeah. I love being anybody but me sometimes. So.
You know, and sometimes when you're a kid, you kind of like I'm gonna date myself. I got to wear an Evel Knievel costume because Evel Knievel was such a badass, and he did these amazing things, and it was just like I was a boy, and I wanted to be Evel Knievel, and the name Evil. Come on, I mean, how cool is that?
Absolutely.
But those costumes, you know, it was the flimsy plastic thing that you put over your face, and the flimsy rubber band, and I think it wasn't until back in 1976, my mom put together a costume so I could be Luke Skywalker.
Awesome.
And that was the coolest thing ever. And, you know, my parents, not to the extent that it sounds like you did, or you had the opportunity for, but my parents did try to help put together costumes for Halloween, and it was fun. It wasn't a big holiday like Christmas, but it was kind of a deal. And you know, I try to do that with my son too. But you know, I don't think that they ever I think my dad made a prop magician's hat for me one year, and it was solidly built, and I wish I still had it because it was kind of cool. But I digress. Anyways,
that should be the new name of our podcast.
I digress.
I digress. Yes.
Every podcast I'm on should be called I digress.
Oh no, it's not. It's not you. It's not you. It's It's my elderly brain. But the one thing that I definitely wanted to ask, and you kind of touched on it when you were talking about it. Does cosplay mean that you have to manufacture all of the bits of your outfit? I mean, is there? And I'm going to kind of explain where I'm coming from in this fashion.
Sure.
I do some basic 3D art, and it's kind of hacky, but whatever. I enjoy it. But there are some that, unless you have actually manufactured the props for this 3D art, you manufactured the character that you're using, it's no good. It's not real art. And I wonder if in the world of cosplay, is there that type of elitism, I guess, is the only way I can really describe that. Does that exist in cosplay?
It certainly exists. I mean, there's that level of elitism in absolutely everything. But if you just want to dress up, like it's one thing if you're entering some sort of cosplay contest and you haven't made anything that you're wearing and things like that. Like that can get a little gray area.
No, sure,
like
yeah.
I can almost understand the elitism. But if you are going to a convention, you're going to an event, you're hanging out on a Saturday afternoon. I don't judge. I'm wearing goggles. I have no place to judge. There's no reason you have to make things for yourself. And even if you are making things, there's no reason you have to make things from scratch. I have an amazing steampunk pistol that I made for myself that is a repainted Nerf gun.
Yep.
I took it apart, I spray painted it, and now it's magic. I have a degree in sculpture. I didn't sculpt this thing. I didn't cast it in resin. I didn't make it from scratch. I repainted one of the Nerf zombie fighting little 6-shooter things.
Nice.
And I love it. I love it. It's amazing. My goggles they're welding goggles, $6 on Amazon. I paint them. I mod them. I add stuff, but it's, you don't have to start from scratch. If you're doing a costume and you cannot sew, go to your local thrift store.
Sure.
Find parts that kind of work. I think one of the easiest ways to sort of, figure out how to put together a character, if it's a character that you're making from scratch in your head, which up until recently all of my characters were my characters. Like they were me as whatever, like my Renaissance character or my steampunk character. Like I haven't done the cosplay video game movie, whatever, like pre-existing character until very recently. So, if you are doing that established character, you can Google is your friend.
Yeah.
You can see what other people are doing. And yeah, there are some cosplayers that are doing everything from scratch and they're, piecemealing this entire costume. But there's also people that are like, hey, I found this cool thing at the thrift shop and I did this, and this to it, and now it looks amazing. Okay.
So it is possible to kind of do it on a budget, or if you're just starting out, you can even break down. Yeah, I could see if you go to a thrift store and you're like, well, this character would wear this coat, and you could, after you wear it, maybe rip it apart and see how it's built. I mean,
that's one way to do it. Or if you're like, oh well, so they wear this coat but it looks a little different, well, maybe you cut it a little shorter, maybe you add trim to it, which you can do easily with glue. Like you don't have to know how to sew to do that.
Okay.
Fabri-Tac, by the way, magical glue.
Yeah.
For fabric, it's perfect. Use it every time.
And as an example, that was a little thing I'm working on. It was a $1.99 squirt gun.
Yep.
A whippet canister from the coffee shop where they have their the whipped cream things, a little bit of leather, and some paint.
Exactly. So you don't have to like start with a lump of clay and make a silicone mold and cast it in resin and make a matrix mold, which is huge on the internet right now. And like there are these cosplayers, you don't need LEDs. Like maybe put battery operated Christmas lights if you really want things to light up, but you don't have to start at that like elite level. Like figure out what you can do and start there. Yeah. And and maybe you push yourself. Maybe you try something new, or you know, it can be evolving, because that's the thing about cosplay. When you're a kid, you wear your Halloween costume once and you never want to wear that Halloween costume again because you've already done it, because you're a kid and you don't understand. But like my steampunk costume, it's forever evolving. I've worn it probably 6 or 7 times now, and it's never been the same thing twice.
Oh, cool.
I'm always adding things or changing things or, you know, anything like that. And sometimes it's just even a matter of like personality in the costume, and it
Sure.
entirely changes how it wears.
Okay. And that's kind of reassuring, I think, that, you know, if you don't have the ability to sew, or you don't have a sewing machine at the, you know, currently that's working or whatever, there are options.
Oh, absolutely.
There's options for it.
Mhm.
And that's cool. What is, thinking back, what is the first convention that you attended where you were cosplaying?
So I actually came pretty late to the convention game. I mean, I've been a geeky nerd my whole life, but the first convention I ever went to was the very first PAX East here in Boston, which was in, I believe, 2012. I didn't dress up for that first one, but that was the first convention I had ever been to. So I believe it was the next year that I dressed up, and I didn't have, like I said, I very recently came to this whole actually cosplaying as characters that exist. So I had learned about steampunk, and it caught my imagination so hard that I absolutely had to do something with it.
Sure.
So that was my first cosplay. My first cosplay ever at a convention was I wore steampunk to PAX East.
Nice.
Yeah, it's probably, I think it was 4 years ago-ish. 3 years ago? 3 years ago that I wore my first steampunk. It's just like a lot of the pieces are store-bought. I made a bunch of it. And like I said, I add to it every year. So that was my first in public. It's weird a little bit sometimes.
Well, I kind of, in my head, cosplay is like performing, essentially.
Oh, it is.
You are, and you know, the one, I can LARP, but I don't think I can actually act. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because you don't have an audience when you're LARPing.
Yeah, and so I like never had a I loved LARPing, and we did like a vampire LARP at a college for I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years, and it was a lot of fun to do. But this is gonna sound kind of weird when I switched from one character to another, and for this character it was like, oh, this character would slick their hair back, and I have never done that in my life. And I remember looking in the mirror and looking at the gel I had in my hands going, I'm actually going to do this. And I was scared. And it sounds really ridiculous, but I just, you know, if that's a confidence issue or whatever, but it was just like, I'm actually making the commitment to dress and be someone else and be different. And it was a little stressful, and then the first time I did it, after that it got better. So, I mean, that first time that you dressed up, did you feel any nervousness about it? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Or did you just put it on and boom, there you were?
No, I was a theater major for a brief time in college. I did a lot of theater in high school, so I'm familiar with being a character. And like I said, I've always loved dressing up. I've always loved being someone other than me for a while. But it is still weird, especially because I was, like, the first time I was cosplaying in public was at a relatively new convention. Because while PAX had been around forever, PAX East was new. And so cosplay still wasn't a really big thing there.
Yeah.
You know, your proportion of dressed up to not dressed up was vast. So it was a little weird, especially that very awkward walk from, like, the parking lot to the convention hall, you know, and you're passing, like, the cops that are on traffic detail and, like, convention hall security guard, and you just know that they're, like, looking at you or whatever. But then, like, you know, so fast forward to last year, I went to Gen Con, And I was actually working at Gen Con, and one day I dressed up in my steampunk. And so I'm walking around, I'm going out to the food trucks, I'm going for coffee at the Bee across the way. And, and it was fine. Like, it wasn't anything. Like,
Sure.
at that point, it's just, this is who I am. So I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. Part of it is embracing that being someone else. Because if you're not you, then there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like, you're never going to see any of these people again anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That
10,000 people you're never going to see again. So
Yeah.
why not just own it?
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think the older you get, the less you care.
That's also true. That is vastly true.
I look back at my 17-year-old self or 15-year-old self, and I'm like, oh God, I need to have these shoes, and I need to have this shirt or these pants, and it was everything. And it's funny how later on in life, when you go to a job interview, you have to stand out. And you've spent that whole younger part of your life not standing out. And the first time that you have to be an adult, you have to prove that you aren't like everyone else. You have to stand apart from the pack, from the herd, and be an individual. And cosplay really is taking that and just running with it, and being okay with the fact that you're geeky and you enjoy something and you enjoy it so much that you're going to embrace it to the point of being that thing for a while, and being okay with that. And that you should be okay with that.
And you can start out simple too. I mean, if you got a white shirt, Brad, and a red tie and a trench coat and a cigarette, boom, you are Constantine.
It's true though.
And walking down the street, anyone who doesn't know Constantine is be like, it's a dude. It's a business dude. Okay.
Are you looking at some of the pictures from my Facebook page?
No.
Because that's what I did. I dressed one year.
Did
I went
you?
as yeah.
All right. No, I saw it. There was a Constantine at Gen Con here, and I'm just like, I've noticed I follow a lot of cosplayers on Facebook. I have some really good friends who do lots of cosplay stuff, and some of them it's beautiful. But I noticed there seems to be a lot more diversity with the female cosplayers than with the men, because the guys are just like, so this one, in this cosplay I'm wearing brown pants and a gray coat, and in that one I'm wearing black pants and a brown coat. It's just like so many of the guy cosplays. It's how much has like a man's suit changed from like 1850 to now? There's not a ton of difference. You can tell it's an older suit, but I mean, you look at like women's clothing and like, I mean, especially when you're in the steampunk with all the leather and the corsets and all the huge skirts and everything. It's just, I'm blown away by some of the stuff. And then it's like, and then there's their husband standing next to him who's also cosplaying. I'm like, he just looks like some dude who went to Goodwill.
Well, that's because she spends so much time working on hers, and he refuses to learn how to sew that, he just has to make do with what he can find at Goodwill.
Men.
Yes, because one of my friends went as if either of you guys watch Penny Dreadful.
I have not. Of Penny Dreadful.
Yeah,
great show. I would highly recommend it. But one of them went as the lead character, so it's Victorian England. It's Gothic horror, and she looked amazing. And she's like, yeah, if I make the stuff for my husband, he'll have to go.
Fair. That's fair.
So.
Yep. I remember a mutual friend of ours and composer of the theme for the Adventure Party, Mark Wooldridge. He and his now wife had a period wedding that was kind of Scottish Lowlands theme. Mm-hmm. So we all wore kilts that stood up, and I did wear.
You get a pin so that doesn't happen.
That, I think it was after the year after that wedding. Yeah, we ended up going to Bristol.
Yep.
Yeah, we went to Bristol, which that's Shakopee is Minnesota. Bristol is Illinois, or do I have that backwards?
It's
Okay.
Wisconsin. It's just
Okay.
it's right on. You
On
can
the-
spit and hit Illinois.
Yeah, it's on the Illinois border. So yeah, we're talking about pure Wisconsin type stuff here. So, but hang
sure.
on a second. Has a
Oh, yeah,
has a point. For no. So Glenn and I are there side by each, and a couple 3 miles down the road there, and had some fish. No, so we ended up wearing our outfits that we wore for that for the wedding. So like full kilt and Scottish Lowland attire. And let me tell you, as a young man, I could wear gillybrogues sort of. And gillybrogues are basically they're pieces of leather with laces that you put on your feet.
Yep.
And I ended up putting in like little Dr. Scholl's simple inserts in there to try to help, but this is when I was like 28, 29. I couldn't do that now. I just nope. I'd be wearing some kind of fancy boot or something to do that. So I mean, so is attending a Renaissance fair dressed? Is that cosplay, or I mean?
Oh yeah.
Did I unwittingly become a cosplayer at that point?
Absolutely. If you are in a costume, if you are being a character other than yourself, whether you are LARPing, whether you are sitting at the gaming table, I've started selling some of the things I make.
Nice.
I will shamelessly plug it at the end of the show.
Well, absolutely you will.
And when I was recently at Nerdtacular, which is the Frog Pants Network's annual convention, and I had a table. I had part of a table. I was part of a shop. It was awesome. But one of the people who came and bought actually a pair of my goggles, he's a DM. And so his whole thing was he wanted something to wear that would properly intimidate his players.
Sure.
And so we talked about it. We talked about, he's like, I can't decide what I want to buy in order to do this. And I said, well, what setting are you running? Like, let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. And so we ultimately decided that, Mad Scientist was probably the way to go. So he bought himself a pair of goggles, and now, now his players can quake in terror. And so, I mean, anytime you're playing dress up, you're cosplaying. Like, don't let anybody tell you what cosplay is and isn't, because it doesn't matter. Like, if you are a character, you're there. Like, that's what you're doing.
Sure.
And I think that you guys were all in your kilts. That was when I had my wonderful costume, which was I was wearing the Norwegian flag as a cape, a rubber helmet, and I had just written on my T-shirt. I had just written armor.
Excellent.
Black Sharpie, and then I was carrying a sign that said, "We'll invade France for food."
Yes.
So that was because I did not have any of my Ren Fair garb at that point.
I love everything about that.
So, oh yeah, and my favorite was I actually made one part of it is I had taken 2 Pringles cans, cut the bottom off, and split it and covered it in foil, and then I had those are my bracers.
Bracers.
That was
right. Yes.
Yes.
See, and that's how it starts, though. That's the beginning. And next thing you know, you're a master leather worker.
that would be our friend Ray.
Oh.
See? So.
Makes his wife's corsets and has his what Connell was like 1 and he was a barbarian.
Yeah.
With leather bracers and everything.
That was our previous guest, Dr. Randy Wolfmeyer, a man of many talents. He's now into leatherworking, and I know, like I said, Mark Wooldridge, he does some leatherworking, and there are some individuals on this planet, and I'm going to talk about Mark Wooldridge for a second, who can pick up an instrument and learn it in an incredibly short period of time. The number of instruments that man can play is ridiculous, and no human being should actually be that, should be that talented, frankly. And then he's like, oh, I'm gonna learn to work with leather, and he'll just learn it. And then it just, he's just so fantastically talented. It's just disturbing. I look at that, and we do a man's woodworking weekend where we all pick a project that we're going to do, and inevitably Mark will show up and just shame us all. And, and we don't do anything like, I'm going to, just make a rolling pin, or which, some of us have done because there's a really nice lathe at this place that we work at.
Sure.
I digress. Every year, one year Mark's like, I'm going to make a lyre. He
Like to
made
be.
a lyre. And
Because
then
being a luthier is an important thing to be. Why not?
he ended up fixing a standing base that he found at. I mean, he like made a whole new arm for it. It just will shame us all, and it's just like he's one of those people that just puts his mind to, I'm going to do this thing, and he just does it, and it's fantastic. And it sounds like, being a cosplayer, having that kind of passion to learn the craft, to whether you focus on the prop making portion or on the uh, tailoring slash seamstress slash dressmaking portion of it. I think that goes a long way. And you also are an illustrator, as I recall. So
I am a sculptor, actually. I don't draw. That's like the one thing I
oh,
don't.
I
I
thought
actually
you
have
did.
no. I dabble. I barely draw. I have an art degree, but I don't draw.
See, I've seen some of your stuff.
It's
what
not
you what,
terrible. But
Well, I mean, if you're going to come up with the rough
farm it out.
concept of stop.
This is why I hang out with artists, because if there's something I can't do, I just shame them into doing it for me. Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah, no.
That's a true friend.
Oh yeah.
If you really cared, you'd draw
would
this
do it
thing
for
for me. I don't even know where see, we totally off the track here, and I don't remember
We
where I was going with
digress.
that. We digressed yet
I
again.
just want to say, Brad, I'm glad you guys have never invited me to your woodworking weekend, because if you did, the next podcast episode would be an in memoriam of me, because I would kill myself, because I should not be allowed around wood or power tools.
Here, we're going to learn a little bit more about Brad, because that's what this show is really all about. We have had close calls. Nobody's lost a finger, and we're very grateful that the place where we go now has a hospital that is less than 30 minutes away. There's now one that's 15 minutes away.
Perfect. That's plenty of time to reattach a limb.
Somebody has caught a piece of wood to the face from a lathe. It was slowly spinning up, and they had the full face shield on, which is, we endeavor not to be stupid with our woodworking. I mean,
Well done.
like, everybody's like, booze only is consumed after everybody is done working on their projects. There's no waking up and having a Bloody Mary before you go down to the wood shop. That's not allowed. Mostly because alcohol is a blood thinner, and it just makes more of a mess you have to clean up later.
Uh-huh.
But after hours, then it's fine. So we do our best to try to be smart and safe about that. And everybody, it's amazing how helpful we all get around each other. It's like, oh, you're going to do this. Well, here, I'll hold on to that piece of, if you're going to use the table saw, I'll help you hold on to that piece of wood and run it through. And
Table saw. I learned that a table saw, one, make sure it has a working emergency stop.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't, that will send a board 30 feet into the air.
It will. It'll send it through drywall.
It will also crack a rib, because that's what happened to me.
Oh, God.
I cracked a rib because it got halfway through and it hit. There was a knot in the board, and I'm trying to hit the stop, and it's not working. Now I have to figure, okay, how do I turn? I have to actually physically turn the saw off, and of course the switch has a guard around it, so I can't use my knee to turn it off.
No, because you want to turn it off by accident. Because
trying to hold the board.
Be equally
okay, as soon as that sign "Let's go," it just whips back, catches me right in the chest. Oh, that was awful.
So there can be pain involved in indulging your art, but is if you stick with it and keep I think that's one other thing that you mentioned earlier, Amy, that you got to walk before you can run. Maybe you just pick up stuff. And focus on one aspect of your outfit, of your cosplay costume, and pick up the rest as you go. Don't expect that you're gonna, run to Joann's and pick up a pattern and just be able to, make a full bodice and dress and the whole 9 yards. That's not going to happen. That is not realistic. That comes with time and with practice and
even then, I mean, I've been doing this for years and years, and I still have massive failures on occasion. I think the biggest thing is to not give up. Like that's and even it's very easy to get either completely inspired beyond your capabilities or completely intimidated to where you don't want to do anything by other cosplayers.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to look at what other people are doing and either say, "Oh my God, I have to do this, 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 and this." Like, forget that you have never done anything before in your life, but you are absolutely going to, sew a full Edwardian, whatever, or you go, "Oh, I'm never." Like, I had this recently. I had this like blow to my faith when one of my favorite cosplayers was working on the same character I am. And I'm well, why am I even bothering now? She's so much better than... No, it's fine. It's all fine. Of course, there are going to be more than one person doing this. Like, this is a big deal. Like,
and from the cosplayers that I've followed, that community, for the most part, I mean, if you were to approach that person that has, done the same costume, and maybe they do a part that you're like, "God, that's amazing. How did you do that?" I get the feeling that you would probably be able to engage in a really good and probably helpful conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of them are posting their work in progress anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's what I do. It's what, all of the cosplayers that I follow do. And then so many of them are putting out ebooks now.
Oh, okay.
Which is amazing. And so, you get to see their process and see how they're doing it. And sometimes you say, "Oh, that's a really good idea. That's how I'm going to do it." And sometimes you go, "I don't know that came out exactly the way I would have done it."
Yeah.
So, maybe I'll do something a little different. But it's absolutely like, of course there are going to be people that are unfriendly or people that are elitists or that's life. This is the way people are. Yeah. But by and large, the community is really, really friendly. And we always want more people.
No, that's cool. And one of us.
Exactly.
Well, I gotta say, if you are that person who does your first one and you create some instantly movie quality level piece of cosplay, I just have to say, screw you, Mark. Suck at something, would you? Please.
The amount of talent that man has is disgusting.
I come from a family of people who refuse failure, so I know like my father. Like when we were digressing, here I go.
Here we go.
We make cakes. That's something my mother made us amazing cakes. My younger sister and I, we both bake cakes and decorate them, and we're both fairly good at it. We decided we were going to try frosting roses, like making icing roses, and those are hard. Those are really hard to do. My dad was like, "No, I'm going to try it." No, perfect. Thanks, Dad. Awesome. Thanks. So it's good in that we have this family dynamic where we can do just about anything. As a family, there's somebody who can figure out how to do it. Whatever. Who's got it.
Yep. And that's going to be the time when you find out somebody has a secret talent that they even they didn't know that they had. Like, I can make icing roses.
Something. I don't know, it's me.
But the other thing too about going back to having reasonable expectations for the work that you do.
Yeah.
I always think back to, I hate Thomas Edison with a passion. So, some might call it completely unreasonable in my hatred of Thomas Edison.
Sure.
But he and Harlan Ellison are on my list of people I absolutely hate. But the one thing that Thomas Edison has done and said that I always think of and quote when something I do does not turn out, and that is and I don't know if it's misquoted to him, but it's the whole thought process of, it took me 100 times to make the light bulb, but I learned 99 ways how not to make a light bulb. It wasn't the fact that You don't dwell on what doesn't work out. You don't dwell on the perceived failure. You have had an opportunity to learn how not to do it. And that is, if looked at in a positive light, that is helpful.
Right.
Never dwell on that. If you are really passionate about this thing that you want to do, don't give up. Just never give up, because if it's worthwhile, it's worth failing at. Absolutely. And you keep moving forward, and you learn how not to do things, and then when you get it right, you've done the thing. You now own a concept that started in your brain and now has manifested in the real world, and you get to use it. How cool is that?
Oh, it's so cool.
It's
so satisfying. Like,
it is.
I definitely set my sights too high, like 100% of the time, but that's not necessarily a horrible thing. Like, as long as I can deal with not making it all of the time, it's not horrible, because I even still, I surprise myself. Like with what I've learned how to do and what I remember how to do. Like, I learned stuff in college, and now I'm like, oh, look, I'm using it. Take that, everybody who said I was wasting my life on my art degree.
Yeah, screw you. Ha.
Ha.
I had this grand idea to do I was Dr. Doom for Halloween at work
Nice.
2 years ago, but I'm like, I want to do something that's kind of steampunkish, so I got like sheet copper, and I laid out all the pieces and figured out, I need to cut this piece here, and I need to bend these tabs here, and then solder the thing on there. And in the process of doing that, I learned how to bend things, how to solder things properly, and I learned that you really need to watch where you point your torch when you are doing it at the kitchen table, because I'm glad that the curtains that I have, while they are light blocking, are also very flame resistant.
Oh, good.
I set my torch down and holding pieces in place so that the solder hardened up, and then I look over and I still to this day have a burned section. It didn't burn all the way through. I just burned the first layer of my curtain. And I looked at the thing and I went, well, that could have gone horribly wrong.
Well, yeah, no, I have my primary work surface is also my dining room table. I don't think I've ever actually eaten at it. But it's, there's little paint marks and little chips and
cut marks probably on it too, and it
happens.
It does. All right. Glenn.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Do you have any other thoughts on cosplay?
I mean, like you were saying before, I mean, the whole, just try it. I mean, what's the saying I like is the whole, go ahead and shoot for the moon. If you miss, at least you'll land among the stars.
That's exactly it.
Of course, then you'll suffocate and your eyeballs will freeze because you aren't meant to live in space. No. But hey, you'll be dead in space, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Right? If you're going to be dead, you might as well be in space.
Be dead in space. I mean, it's the number one thing that I know I've gotten caught up on and the crafty stuff is not my. I'm not awful at it, but it's not my strongest suit. And I am also, I take on things where I'm like, I can do this, and then I'm like, this is a lot of work, and then it gets put aside, and then I go back to it and it gets put aside. But you hit on it already, anywhere. The comparing yourself to other people is that anything you do, there'll be someone out there who's going to do it better than you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And if you spend all your time comparing yourself to someone else, you're going to do nothing. Because the little gun I showed, I mean, I got the idea from someone I met at I didn't meet him at the con, but there's Wisconsin has this, I think it's called, is it TeslaCon, I think is this.
Oh yeah,
here.
Yep.
And it was someone I knew who went there and actually sold stuff there, and he had some different guns, and I talked to him and he's like, yeah, I buy squirt guns and I repurpose them.
Yep.
Now if I compared my gun to his and that was my only measurement, I'd throw mine in the trash and I'd go in the corner and I'd never cosplay again. But I realized that, he's been doing it longer than me.
Yep.
And I can probably bowl better than him. So He's making better cuts. I can beat him in bowling. So therefore, all right, he's better at me at something. I'm probably better at him than something else. And that's just how life is, unless you're Mark Waldron.
The other thing to remember is that a lot of these cosplayers that, like a lot of the ones that I follow on the internet, on the Facebooks and things like that, this is their job. This is what they do 100% of their time. And so when you have, you know, your couple hours after work or school or whatever, and then, you know, your one day on the weekend to do it, like, you can't compare this to the people that this is their job.
No.
And so that's like, I have the hardest time with that. I have to be reminded of that 100% of the time. And while that, like, I'm not gonna lie, that's the goal. Like, let's not be foolish. That would be the dream. But, you know, I forget that a lot of the time. Like, that's all this person has to do all day is make this costume. So yeah, guess what? It only took them a week and a half because that's all they did for a week and a half.
And, you know, it's opportunity for personal growth, as cliched and hallmarky as that sounds. I'm not going to lie, it does sound that way, but I mean, when you really think about it, you did the thing, and if it didn't quite turn out exactly how you pictured it, well, now you've got a baseline. You've done the work, you know what it took to make the thing that you're not quite happy with. And that's a good place to start. Exactly. Yep. You know, do you make a better pattern? Do you cut things a little looser or a little tighter? Or, you know, do you sand your pieces of copper before you attempt to solder them because that's what you're supposed to do? You know, don't do you
maybe decide that foam is a better option instead of actual copper?
Yeah, I told a friend of mine I was going to do that. And he looked at me like, "You're insane."
Yeah. No, a good friend of mine who does a lot of Renaissance and SEA type cosplay and stuff just finished his second full chain shirt, like, you know, down to the knees.
Sure. Yeah.
And this one he made out of PVC.
I'm such an elitist.
Cut it all because the first one he made out of rings.
Yep.
And it weighs 74 pounds. Mm-hmm. So walking around the Renaissance fair, he made it an hour and had to go back to the car and take it off because plus all the stuff underneath, plus carrying a broad axe. He's like, so yeah, carrying 120 pounds of gear in 90-degree weather is a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
And so he goes, now I made one that's even longer, and it weighs 7 pounds.
But, you know, when the apocalypse comes, he knows how to make chainmail, so automatically valuable skill.
Boom.
Which is my argument for it. Because I like chainmail. So I'm like, listen, I can't fight. I'm like 5'6", you know, 100 and something pounds. Like I'm not a fighter. I'm not a survivor. I don't go outside. But I can make chainmail, and so I've got a sellable.
You got a very
someone will take me in.
Yep.
It's fine.
And you will have plenty of food and or money, whatever money is used at that particular New World Order.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy. We covered a lot of stuff, and, you know, really, I kind of have more questions, and I would like to revisit this topic again. So if you are willing to come back, excellent. We would love to have you back and talk more about cosplay. All right, we're going to move on to Hello, My Name Is. It's your opportunity for me to push buttons on my soundboard and probably screw something up. No, that's not what it is. That's your opportunity to talk about your favorite character that you are playing or have played in an RPG game, whether that's Trail of Cthulhu or... See, I've got Trail of Cthulhu on the brain now. I'm seeking it out and I couldn't find it, and now I'm sad. Or, you know, something else. If you enjoyed that character, we'd love to hear about it. What we ask you to do is go to galacticnutcast.com and click on the Adventure Party page in the podcast list, drop-down list, and there is on the right-hand side, a icon for you to click for Hello, My Name Is, and it's a short survey, a little bit of information about you, basic information as in your name, your email address. Yes, I do ask for your email address. The only purpose for it is to email you a certificate if we talk about your character. And as listener Daryl, oh my God, he's going to kill me. I'm going to have to edit that out in post. Daryl Johnston has gotten a certificate from us that he can put on. I don't know if he's printed it out yet. He hasn't really said anything. So maybe he's thrown it in the trash. Who knows? It's something that we like to do here. But tell us about your character. Yes, I do. Like I said before, I asked for email address. The only purpose to that is to send you that certificate, and then you can post that, throw it in the trash, whatever you want to do with it. Once it leaves us, we don't care what you do with it, frankly. No, I'm kidding. We would love to have you have a piece of the show. That's the other part of this too. We're glad that you listen, and if you share that information with us, we'd love to share more with you, and that is in the form of a certificate. You can find out more about the Adventure Party by going to galacticnetcast.com, and there you can find all of our social media outlets. We've been kind of talking up YouTube here because we've talked about actual, like, have you actually physically look at the thing that we're talking about. So you have an opportunity to see that. The YouTube version is live and uncensored. If you're listening to a podcast version of this, surprise, your stuff here is edited and it sounds a lot better than the actual version that was actually done on YouTube. It gets cleaned up. The audio sounds a little bit better and spaces are tightened up, and you'll hear a lot fewer ums and ahs. So what we'd ask, if you are listening to a podcast version of this from iTunes or Stitcher, if you just take a moment to review it. Give whatever star rating that you would like to. If it's on Stitcher, give us a thumbs up if you think it's worthwhile to do so. Your feedback, whether it's positive or negative, just kind of gives us a guidepost. Are we on the right track? Do you feel that we're covering the things that we should in a podcast about games and gaming and the lifestyle that comes about with gaming? We want to make this show as good as possible, and your feedback can help to make that happen. You can also leave us feedback by emailing galacticnetcasts@gmail.com, or you can call or text the number 805-328-3966. That number again, 805-328-3966. Depending on your cell plan, there might be a charge tacked onto that. But you can leave us a message or a text and let us know how we're doing. You can also click, and this is kind of cool, we have a WordPress plugin where you can click a bar on the right-hand side of the screen that says leave a message, and if you have a microphone attached to your computer, you can click that, and bam, you can record something, and the system emails that MP3 that's generated to us and goes to our hot little hands, and we can share that with the next episode. I want to thank you, Amy, for coming on the show to talk about cosplay, and I feel like we only touched maybe a quarter to half of everything that we could talk about it.
We can do this again. We'll do it again. It'll be fun. Anytime you want.
Oh, cool. Where can people, because you mentioned that you're selling some of your wares for your cosplay, where can people find out more about you, about the Overcast, and also where to buy your wares?
All right, so the best place to find me right now is on my cosplay Facebook page. That is facebook.com/Daniora Cosplay. That is DANIORA. That's sort of my internet persona. And also the first RPG character I ever played.
Nice.
I have an Etsy store. It exists. It's not really open yet. There's nothing there. It's etsy.com/instant cosplay if you want to go ahead and like it. It's the sort of stuff that you can wear on your non-cosplay day at the con. You just throw it on with a geeky t-shirt and suddenly you're cosplaying. And then if you are interested in Blizzard's upcoming IP Overwatch, which is going to be their first-person shooter, but also their graphic novel and probably breakfast cereal and whatever else that Blizzard has. I do a podcast with sci-fi author and webcomic artist J.F. Dubow, who is also a regular of the Galactic Netcasts. And you can find us over at overcastpodcast.com or facebook.com/The Overcast Podcast.
Nice. And Glenn, where can people find out more about you, Mr. Glenn Bittner?
You don't want to know about me.
I do. Please.
You can find me on the Facebooks at B-Movie Bunker, at Naked Hobo Productions, at Mr. RPG, at Apocalypse How, on YouTube with the B-Movie Bunker and Naked Hobo Productions, and just follow me on Twitter at Naked Hobo.
Nice. All right. That wraps everything up for this particular meeting of the Adventure Party. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen and or watch if you're checking us out on YouTube. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Good night.